Hi guys, welcome back to the Shannon Show. Hello if you're new. So today's video is going to be a spoiler review of season 3 of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. It's going to be very plot heavy, this review. I'm going to be talking about the ins and outs of the storylines and the plots. I was really excited for this season. Last season was a trip. I feel like this is kind of one of my favorite shows on Netflix and my favorite shows in kind of like the Archie comic adaptations. They dropped the trailer last week, and it was obviously when they dropped the trailer, it was like a music video, and I was just like, I really hope that they don't turn it into Riverdale, because obviously everyone who watches Riverdale, you know that shit is just so ridiculous, and I'm starting to hate the music in Riverdale, to be honest. For those of you who watch Riverdale, what do you guys think about the music? Do you like it? Do you not like it? So I was a bit skeptical, but I actually did like the inclusion of music, but I'll get more into that later. So obviously, we're back. There's only 8 episodes this season. It was 10 last time, but you kind of don't really notice. It does kind of feel like it is 10 episodes anyway, even though it's 8. So I don't really think that we're missing out on anything. I feel like with 2 extra episodes, probably things just would have been a bit more dragged out. So I think it's smart. So I think, cutting 2 episodes, yes, it might have been enjoyable to have 2 extra, but I don't think it really affects things. But let me know if you feel like they should have had 2 extra episodes, or if you're kind of cool with the new 8 episode format. And another thing I noticed is that I don't understand how after 3 seasons Sabrina is still 16. I don't get that. But to be fair, it has been a fairly quick turnover in terms of seasons compared to other Archie comic adaptations. But there only has been, but like with the other adaptations, they're usually like 20 episodes a season, where this is just like 10 and 8 even this season. Last season, obviously, Nick has offered himself up as a sacrifice, as a kind of human entrapment to trap Lucifer in him. And Chance are out there looking for Fasters because they want revenge. And that's pretty much where we kind of left off. So basically, what I kind of assumed that this season would be, I kind of thought that it was just going to, like, the whole season was just going to be Sabrina traveling through hell and trying to get Nick back, and then figuring out how they were going to save Nick without releasing her father. But obviously, we get way more than that. There's so many other kind of subplots going on. There's a lot going on this season. Obviously, the season starts off, as I suspected, Sabrina, she's trying to get back to hell. She figures out a way to get there, and she asks her friends, guys, could you help me get Nick back? Let's go to hell together. And then her friends are like, yeah, okay, let's just take a little trip to hell, Sabrina has some good friends, because I would not be going on that trip to hell, honey. But what I thought was quite interesting was kind of like the imagery of hell. Like, I would have assumed they would have gone down the stereotypical route of, just everything burning, everything's horrible, everyone's moaning, everyone's screaming. I always find it interesting how people portray hell in like fictional portrayals. So I think it's quite interesting that they went with a cold climate rather than a hot climate. And you see like people in cages, you see people on crucifixes, you see like we see a trail of blood. I was living for the hell fantasy. I'm living for the creativity, and I loved the color scheme. Let me know what you kind of thought about the kind of depiction of hell. Do you think it's quite interesting? And what would your depiction of hell, what do you kind of imagine hell to look like? So obviously down in hell, we're introduced to a new character, a new hottie of the season, but let's talk about him later. And then obviously when they're kind of like going on their travels, Theo sees his uncle on the crucifix, and it's just very awkward. Imagine that you're just taking a little trip to hell and you see your uncle there. It's just like, I thought you were a good person. Obviously, he wants to help his uncle. He doesn't believe his uncle should be there. I don't know. I feel like if I was to see one of my uncles in hell, even if I had like a good relationship with them, I probably just assume that they were there for a reason and keep my distance. Obviously, Lilith is not here for Sabrina's shenanigans, because I just feel like obviously Lilith is just power hungry. Like, she'll do anything to get whatever she wants. So she's just thinking like Sabrina's probably here to fuck shit up for her. Obviously, you know, it's ideal for her for Lucifer to be trapped in Nick's body. She knows that Sabrina's here for Nick's body. So at first you're trying to meddle with Sabrina, but then obviously henchmen of like the Hell Realm come and they basically don't see Lilith's claim as legitimate because she doesn't have Morningstar blood. And then she decides, well, actually, I do need Sabrina, so, you know, why don't you come on in, girl? And she's just kind of telling Sabrina, you know, you tell them I have a rightful claim to the throne. They're not really buying it. And then her father kind of drags her into Nick's brain, which obviously Lucifer and Nick are sharing, and basically says that they're not going to accept Lilith as the queen and that she should claim the throne. That's the only way she's going to save Nick. Nick is up in the brain as well, and he's just like, you know, just don't do it, just leave me here, forget about me, don't do it. But obviously Sabrina, she wants to be the hero, she wants to save Nick, you know, she's come all the way to hell, she's not going to leave without Nick's body. So she obviously does a 360 and she says she's going to be the queen of hell. So obviously I'm just like, oh, okay. Queen of hell, okay, another storyline. Lilith is not too happy, but you know, Sabrina makes her second. And at this point, Sabrina's just like, you know, this is just going to be a temporary thing. I'm just here to get my man back. Like, this is not serious. But I feel like we all kind of knew at that point this was just going to be a bigger storyline for Sabrina and probably one of the main causes of conflict. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting, you know, going from witch to queen of hell. It's quite a big jump. But obviously, Sabrina is challenged by the new hottie of the season, Caliban, the so-called prince of hell. And kind of sets off this whole kind of challenge. It's called the Unholy Holy Regalia, and there's this kind of journey. You know, it's kind of got a medieval Game of Thrones, Hunger Games-y vibe to it, Harry Potter tournament vibe to it. I enjoyed the Unholy Cup of Regalia. I would have even liked to have seen that as a whole season, almost like the Harry Potter movie when, I'm not sure, I forgot what film it was. It's the one where it has Robert Pattinson in it and they like do like loads of challenges. I would have liked to see a season of that. Out of the challenges, what kind of challenge I enjoyed the most, like that I found the most entertaining, was probably the second one when it was like the bowl of something. You know, they're warping time. They're taking advantage of the time warp. You know, Sabrina tricks the guy into stealing the bowl. I like that storyline, and then obviously we kind of see. I like that storyline. I feel like we kind of see a bit more of Caliban's character. Obviously, he's quite cheeky, mischievous, charming, and also deceptive. And you know, we kind of see a different side to him, maybe a potentially more noble side to him. I don't know whether that was just a ploy. I really enjoyed. That was probably my favorite challenge out of the whole kind of Unholy Regalia storyline. But what was your favorite challenge? After Sabrina becomes the queen of hell, she takes Nick's body back and hides it in the academy, which has been started up again by Zelda. And yeah, I really liked the kind of multi-roles and how sometimes, you know, Gavin would play Lucifer and to be Nick. And I thought that was quite interesting. I would have preferred to see more of Gavin playing Lucifer in Nick's body. I think a lot of it was Lucifer played by Luke Cook. And Luke Cook is a really good actor, so I don't really mind it. So I feel like he plays the devil, he embodies the devil really well, his deceptiveness, his charmingness, his narcissism. So I enjoyed seeing him on screen, but I think I would have preferred to see more of the kind of multi-role playage. Being crowned the queen of hell comes with great responsibility. And there's like a kind of subplot where she has to like drag souls to hell, and there's this whole kind of moral argument of, you know, who deserves to be condemned to hell, who doesn't. You know, two souls in comparison. There was one guy who sold his soul for success, but she decides to send him to heaven instead of hell. But then there was this one guy who was like a serial killer that was, you know, obviously meant to be condemned to hell. So it was interesting, that kind of argument. But then what I also found interesting is, obviously, I guess they all do like their research on, like, devil stuff and satanic rituals and stuff like that. And obviously the guy had been making a deal with the devil every 7 years and saying, every 7 years he'd extend his life. He'd extend his life if he gave up an innocent soul, and he just kept killing like innocent little girls. And there's always like these conspiracy theories of like the Illuminati and stuff like that, Freemasons, this is what people do. They do a blood sacrifice. And usually it's like something like, it's like their family member or something like that. Like their family member usually dies. So yeah, I'm living for this. Do you feel like this is what really happens? For those of you who are like really into like spiritual stuff, or think like the devil and stuff is real, do you feel like this is what happens behind the scenes? People just be sacrificing people to get whatever they want, be sacrificing people to live longer, to get their deepest desire. What do you think? Do you think there's any kind of truth to these conspiracies? Let me know. Prudence and Ambrose are carrying on their kind of Bonnie and Clyde ninja witch stuff, and they're just trying to hunt down Fastest, and they've gone all the way to New Orleans, and they've called upon a Haitian witch to help them find Fastest, because Fastest just keeps tricking them. It always seems like Fastest is one step ahead of them. So it is quite interesting, them bringing in other strands of witches. It's not kind of just like the old Massachusetts, New England witches. It's either kind of like, the witch from like, the witch trials, Salem witch trials, witchery, or kind of the Haitian witch in New Orleans. I feel like that's always the stereotype. Like we saw it with Coven. We saw it in American Horror Story, this kind of stereotypical Haitian witch. But I'm here for it. I'm here for the inclusion. I'm here for the diversity of witchcraft. What do you guys think about this kind of inclusion of a Haitian witch? I probably would have liked to see a lot more action from Prudence and Ambrose, a bit more of a chase between them and Fastest, whether it was him himself or a decoy. I feel like I would have enjoyed a bit more of a chase. It just kind of felt like they killed one decoy and then they found him in Scotland. But what do you guys think? They find Fastest in Scotland, and he's transcended in time. The twins are like 15 now. He's found this powerful egg that has all of these powerful properties and time bending properties. And one thing I will say is that, the hair and makeup team, what was that beard? That beard looks so fake. And then also, another thing I'm confused about is the twins. Because when they were born, they were both like the same medium tone mixed race colour. Why is the boy twin dark skin and the girl twin medium tone, when they were both the same skin tone when they were babies? I don't know. I just feel like with a show with this budget, I feel like the casting is a bit strange. Obviously, they capture Fastest and they put the twins in this kind of dollhouse. I really like the shot with the dollhouse because they made it look like very huge. I wonder what kind of device they used to do that, whether they did like a 360 camera. I think maybe they might have used a 360 camera for that. But that just looked really cool because it felt like they were in a fake, massive dollhouse. I really like that shot. And then they use Fastest's body to re-entrap Lucifer and set Nick free. When Lucifer and Nick were, sharing Nick's body and his self-conscious, we kind of see them fighting. I really like the lighting because it's kind of like a soft, hot pinky colour, but then it kind of was like juxtaposed with the violence. I really like that. I thought that was quite clever. But one thing is that I would have liked to have seen a bit more of what we saw when Fastest and Lucifer were sharing the subconscious. Obviously, Nick and Lucifer have, a different relationship than Lucifer and Fastest. Obviously, they have a more of a calmer relationship. In their head, they were kind of just talking with each other rather than just fighting all the time. In Nick in Nick's subconscious. But I feel like it would have been a bit more interesting if we saw a bit more torment in terms of speaking instead of just physical, because I feel like the physical, them solely just physically fighting in Nick's head is a bit of a cop out, when we could have seen a bit more conversation, we could have seen a bit more mental manipulation, and I feel like they kind of missed an opportunity to do that. But what do you guys kind of think on the whole Luke and Nick in Nick's head? Nick is free now, and it becomes quick straight away that they're not going to give us Sabrina, and that Sabrina is definitely not endgame. Next time, with his body being held hostage, affected him. He said he felt used, he felt abused, and then he just starts going off at Sabrina, telling her, it's her, like he blames her, and how could she let him sacrifice his body, and that she wasn't worth it. Granted, he still had some Lucifer residue inside him, but I was not here for the way that Nick was coming for Sabrina. And then on top of that, he's out here drinking, he's out here cheating on Sabrina, and it's just very clear that Sabrina is just not going to happen. Another thing is that I always find it quite funny, the juxtaposition of like the wholesome witch Sabrina content, and then there's just like the BDSM pit with Nick. It's just very funny. I'd expect nothing less from the Riverdale writers. So obviously Nick is going through it, he's traumatized, he's acting out, and every once in a while he like goes to Faustus. Obviously Lucifer is in his body, just beats him up. Obviously, Lucifer can see that Nick is not in the right mind. He's drinking, doing drugs, and he tempts him and he tricks him into releasing him by offering him drugs, and obviously he takes the bait. After that, Sabrina kind of forces him to detox, and they find out that he does have this Lucifer residue inside him, which they remove. Sabrina's hopeful that obviously now that the Lucifer residue is gone, they can like get back to how they were, but he still says that he needs some space, and he's just again being pressed, being very jealous when other male suitors are giving her attention. And like near the end of the season, he tries to extend an olive branch, but Sabrina is just not here for the disrespect, especially after going all the way to hell to rescue his ass. Like good sis Prudence said, Sabrina needed to have a bit more self-respect, so she had to set them boundaries. And yes, I love teen shows preaching about self-respect and not just letting any boy think they can play with you just because they're good looking. Not in this house. Continuing on the topic of teen romance, I feel like they were kind of teasing Sabrina a lot this season, and I feel like it's endgame. I feel like it's one of those ones where it's bound to happen, just like in Riverdale. I don't actually want to mess it up, but just like in Riverdale, when a certain couple ended up back together, we knew that was gonna happen. So I just feel like they're just setting us up for that. Obviously Sabrina and Harvey are spending a lot of time in the beginning of the episode, because obviously he had access to the mines before she found that portal. He's gone to hell with her to help her. He's telling Sabrina, Nick ain't shit. He doesn't deserve you. When Nick does come back, you can sense there's some animosity there, They have a little moment where they touch hands, that bit. And then on top of that, it's very clear that Sabrina is his true love. Like, when obviously that true love kiss that he had to do to revive Ross, I knew that shit was not going to work. I was just like, that statue is not going to budge. And then on top of that, he was getting pressed when Caliban was like, so what it is, she must not be your true love, innit? And he was just getting very angry. And then obviously the telltale sign, Roz with the cunning, she's kissing Harvey, and all she's seen is Harvey and Sabrina. So it's just very clear that Sabrina are going to come together at some point, whether it's next season, the season after, who knows. But I feel like they're setting us up for Sabrina. But what do you guys think? Do you think this is just a tease? They're not meant to be? Or do you feel like Sabrina is endgame? Let me know what you think. We'll come back to the romance later, but moving on back to the plot. Obviously, the main kind of subplot, obviously now that, hell is kind of imbalanced because there isn't a clear leader yet at that point, the old pagan people are coming back. The old powerful pagan people are coming back and taking advantage of the fact that the coven is losing their powers because Lucifer is refusing to give them back their powers, and they don't want to kind of cut a deal with him. So as always, as the villains usually do, they want to take over the earth. To add things to the mix, they want to kill all the humans as well as all of the witches. Then we're kind of taking on the journey of, the witches trying to gain back their power without making a deal with the devil. So obviously they try loads of things. They try angel blood, they try angel oil, and charging in the moonlight. I felt like that was quite interesting because, people say you should charge your crystals in the moonlight. For those of you who believe in crystals and the power of crystals, you're supposed to charge it in the moonlight, and the moonlight gives you energy. And you know what? I used to be a crystal naysayer, and my sister introduced me to crystals, and I was just like, what the hell? This little shiny rock does not have any powers. But there was just one day where I had a headache, and she was like, just put the crystal in your head. This is when I still had hair. And she put it in my throat, and my headache went away, and I felt the energy from the crystal. And, even when I went to visit my cousin in Dallas, we went to a crystal shop, and I could just feel the energy from the crystals. And I definitely feel like, there is kind of energy in the moonlight, and there is things in the earth that have energy. I might sound like a loony to some of you, but yeah, I definitely look into crystals for those of you who are spiritual. I know some people say crystals are the product of evil and the devil. Grew up in a Christian family, and they all say crystals are evil, but I don't think so. Do any of you guys think that the moonlight does have special energies, or do you feel like it's just a load of foo-foo? But yeah, of course, also they call on other stray witches to come and help them, and the Haitian witch comes back again. Obviously Lilith is shook that Lucifer is loose, and she tries to come to the witches for safe haven, and Zelda was like, nah, you better find somewhere else, boo boo. And because when we were praying for you, where were you, ho? And she ends up going to the original Miss Wardwell's house in the guise of her fiance Adam. Obviously the real Miss Wardwell is back now, but Lilith is still using her likeness. Wardwell has been having flashbacks and nightmares, and she has suspected that she has encountered evil spirits. Obviously she's a Christian woman. At first she kind of believes the guys, but then Faustus, who is actually Lucifer, comes in pretending to be a priest and basically tells her, there's the devil in your house, let me know where it is, and basically tells her that the Spellmans are evil witches. So she gives up Lilith in the guise of Adam, and then obviously Lucifer makes Lilith release him from Faustus's body. Obviously Lilith is a smart bitch. She's one of my favourite characters. Who would even think of just stealing Lucifer's sperm and getting pregnant to save themselves? Iconic. She gets pregnant to save her some more time. So obviously now she's pregnant. So that's quite interesting to see if this baby even appears. Obviously Lucifer is free now. And you know what? I would have thought that him being free would have caused a lot more havoc than it did. It kind of was just he came back to hell, and they're like, well, you can't be on the throne now because Sabrina and Caliban are having this little competition. He was like, all right, cool. I'm just thinking, the Lucifer that we were introduced to last season, I don't think he'd accept that. What do you guys kind of think about that? Do you think that was a little strange? So obviously the pagans get to work. They're sending people in to seduce people. They're turning people into stone. They're turning people into fly insects. They're getting to work, and they basically put the squeeze in the coven, and they're like, you know what, we're giving you 3 days to surrender, and that's that. Their main objective is to revive their all-powerful leader, the Green Man, and the green man needs a virgin sacrifice. A lot of shit goes down. Hilda turns into a disgusting fly insect. She ends up thinking that she kills, attacking Mr. C. She eats someone. The blood was very dramatic. So, Hilda, she's had enough of being this fly woman, and she asks Hilda to shoot her, I guess with the intention of being reburied. And then obviously Miss Baldwell, she's pressed. She kind of realizes, she kind of has an inkling of what has happened to her fiance, and she blames witches, she blames the Spellmans. So she pulls up at Zelda's house and she shoots Zelda. So this is what this wholesome Christian woman is doing. She's just pulling up to people's house, shooting them. I'm not sure if that makes sense. Another thing I didn't really get, I kind of half got, was why they didn't just bury in the resuscitation grave with Hilda. I'm not really sure why they didn't do that. Maybe it's because their powers were waning. Maybe the resuscitation thing wasn't working because obviously Hilda was just taking ages to come back to life. But yeah, I'm not really sure why they decided to go a different route in resuscitate. Any of you kind of have an inkling why, let me know. Or if anyone else was kind of confused, let me know. Near the end, it's kind of split into two versions of events. Obviously, Sabrina does kind of time warp. The first version of events is obviously she was just going to become the Queen of Hell, winning the Holy Regalia and, assuming the all-powerful powers, and then giving her coven back their powers, and then beating the pagans. Obviously, Caliban tricked her, and he basically just left her in the wall. A version of her travels back in time to free her, to make everything right. Obviously, when she's free, she finds out that Caliban took the throne, tried to start a war on Earth with the pagans, but the pagans beat them. I'm confused because I just feel like, obviously, at this point, Lucifer is above ground and he has all of this power, but yet he didn't have the power to defeat the pagans, or he didn't think, let me put my pride aside and just give the coven back their powers so that we can beat these pagans. They didn't really make that clear. I feel like maybe that was a kind of overlooked part of the script. Basically, everybody's dead, everybody's defeated, except for Ambrose. And Ambrose has been hiding in the tunnels, and he still has the mysterious egg, and Sabrina uses that to go back further in time and basically retrace her steps and fix everything. Obviously, before Faustus has basically came in and killed everyone, he killed Prudence. Zelda was in limbo, found out some information, came back to life, but then Faustus killed her. That was a good twist. I thought she was going to stay dead. I think it would have been a better twist if she stayed dead, but I wasn't surprised that they brought her back. So she stops all of that happening. She stops Harvey being taken as the sacrifice, and then she tricks them by putting the Witch of Disease in a guise into the Green Man tree, which effectively rots the Green Man tree, and then they all just basically murk up the remaining pagans. Raz comes through with the samurai, the cunning, and chops off the snake lady's head clean. Hilda, she was not fucking about with that voodoo doll. She was just cracking her bones. And yeah, it looked really realistic when they were like, she was cracking her bones. Obviously they went in and out with the focus. I'm guessing that was just a very realistic doll. Or I feel like what they did, because some of it looked quite realistic, I think maybe they went with a doll and a contortionist. That's what I might have to go back and analyse that. But that looked quite realistic. Like, I was just like, ooh, every time the bones were cracking. She was just like, you know what, you turned me into a fly and then you made me eat my man. How dare you? I was here for the voodoo doll revenge. What I noticed is that when they sacrificed Miss Wardwell, in the second version, obviously the fake Miss Wardwell, she was wearing clothes. She was fully clothed. But when they were sacrificed in Harvey, suddenly his shirt is missing. Very interesting. So yeah, Sabrina saves the day. And obviously now she has to go back in time, and to ensure that to ensure that she doesn't like mess up everything too much, she has to go back to the spot where her future / past her freed her. But instead of doing that, she decides she's going to be cheeky and she goes to the point before Caliban tricked her and basically says, instead of us merging together to complete it, why don't you just stay up here and be queen, and then I'll go down here and be a teenager and live the best of both worlds. So both Sabrinas agree. Obviously, she catches Caliban, and obviously she leaves Caliban there to rot in the cave. And that's what Caliban deserves. He proper tried it. Like, he fully was just going to leave Sabrina there, like, fully. I want him to come back, though. I feel like they are going to bring him back for season 3. But yeah, that's what Caliban gets. You know, she comes back to Earth and, you know, everything's dandy. She's like, oh, you know, I'm not the queen of hell anymore. Like, it's good. Like, we're never even going to go up there anymore. But, you know, Ambrose, you know, he's a very smart guy. He twigs it and he's just like, you know, what did you do kind of thing. And she confesses and he's just like, you know what, there's going to be like so many consequences. Things are going to be out of whack. Things are going to be out of loop. You know, Sabrina is quite optimistic, but, you know, we do kind of get a sign that things might not be as smooth as she was hoping. You know, the clock malfunctioned and it slammed down, foreshadowing the times in the loop have gone out of whack. She's messing with time. She's messing with events possibly. And then, of course, a thing that still happens is that Agatha kills Dorcas. I'm not sure whether it's because of those like evil bugs that Lucifer planted, or whether it was the pagan people that had charmed her into being this evil person. But yeah, let me know if you can clarify for me. But, you know, she kills Dorcas, so I'm guessing Dorcas is like dead, unless they decide to resuscitate her for the next season. But I didn't really have like a connection with the Weird Sisters other than Prudence. I feel like Prudence has been the standout of the Weird Sisters. Obviously, she's main cast. It's just kind of just like the sisters were kind of the backup dancers, so I don't really care about the sister dying, to be honest. But obviously, storyline, Prudence blames Ambrose for not letting her kill her father when she had the chance. We would have prevented this. And now they're all broke. And now Ambrose and Prudence are broken up. And I'm upset about them breaking up. I thought that they were a badass couple. So I feel like I hope they reunite. Obviously, she uses Nick as a shoulder to cry on. Is that where Nick's going to go next? Is that where Prudence is going to go next? You know, they've been with each other before. So yeah, what do you guys think? So back to the romance aspect. Obviously, Ross and Harvey are together at the end. They kind of seem quite solid. You know, Ross kind of has her doubts about Harvey, whether he's still in love with Sabrina. You know, he's just saying he doesn't love Sabrina. He's all about Ross. And for now, I feel like that's what he is. He's all about Ross. He's trying to forget Sabrina. I think, you know, obviously, Sabrina, obviously there's the whole storyline of them, you know, trying to lose their virginity. I think they finally do it in the last episode, but we're not really confirmed. They haven't really, you know, I guess we'll know for sure next season. I like Ross and Harvey together. I think they're a cute couple, but I just feel like they're doing my girl Ross dirty, because it's just very clear that Harvey and Sabrina are going to end up with each other. But what do you guys think? Do you feel like Ross and Harvey could potentially be endgame? Or do you feel like Harvey and Sabrina will eventually end up back together? Obviously, next romance. Theo has a romance. I'm here for the romance. I feel like Theo was getting a bit left out in terms of like the romance front. Obviously, he ends up together with Ralph, who is like hanging out with the pagans. He's not a pagan, he's a goblin. And, you know, at first he was just kind of like using Theo to get like a virgin sacrifice, but then they end up actually liking each other. I'm not really sure how I feel about it, because, you know, Ralph was talking trash about Theo, you know, amongst his pagan friends. Maybe he was just talking it up in front of the pagan friends. But yeah, I don't know. They seem cute. I do want to stand, but, you know, I have my reservations, you know. I stand the representation. I stand the trans representation. Obviously, they have Obviously, Theo is very anxious about them getting intimate with each other. Tells Ralph before, Ralph goes in for the kiss. So it's very clear that Theo was very anxious about, not being accepted. I thought that was quite sweet. And there's like always kind of debate, whether trans people should say that they are trans before partaking in intimacy, whether they have an obligation or a right to. Obviously, they went down the route of Theo saying that he was trans. I feel like maybe it's easier for, the younger generation, because the younger generation is a bit more open-minded, is a bit more progressive thinking. But I don't necessarily I feel like obviously it's always great to be transparent and honest in relationships, but I don't necessarily view somebody being trans as like this dirty secret. Definitely understand why people might not necessarily want to straight away, because of fear of rejection, fear of violence, or maybe they don't even know if they actually really like this person. Great that we saw a relationship, and I felt like it's great that they didn't kind of hold back, they didn't cut scenes, they treated it the same as all the other relationships. So yeah, I stand that. Other romantic developments, Zelda and the Haitian witch hook up. I did not see that coming. And then obviously Hilda and Dr. C get engaged. And he turns out to be alive. Obviously, I was so happy when she went, because obviously she was there to say her goodbyes. And then he was alive, and it was just so sweet. Hilda is such a wholesome character, and she just deserves everything. And I'm here for Hilda and Dr. C, and I'm so happy that he's alive. And then obviously, I guess Sabrina's the single Pringle now. I don't think that's going to last long. I feel like with these teen shows, the main characters are never single for long. Like, there always has to be a romantic relationship attached. I don't mind romantic relationships. I don't mind romantic relationships. I think maybe it would be interesting to see Sabrina go a whole season without being romantically involved with anyone. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I feel like she's either going to progress with Harvey, but I'm not really sure how, because obviously she had the opportunity to be quite deceptive with the whole Judas challenge, where, she could have got the coins a lot easier if she just kissed Harvey and betrayed Ross. But she decided not to do that because she cares about Harvey and she cares about Ross, and she didn't want to meddle in the relationship. So I feel like if Sabrina and Harvey do end up together, I don't think it would necessarily be through cheating, and if it is, I think it would be Harvey's lips to touch Sabrina's first. Then obviously Nick leaves the door open. He says, "Can we be friends?" Sabrina really isn't that interested in, but if Nick was to come and grovel for forgiveness, I think Sabrina would probably take him back. But I'm not 100% on that. And then obviously another option I was thinking for next season would be possibly Caliban coming back on the scene. I think this is definitely a test for them to add in a new hot boy, and depending on what the audience reaction would be, they might bring him in for next season, or maybe it's already slated for him to be brought in for next season. I feel like the way that he would be brought in is maybe Sabrina felt guilty. Maybe Sabrina would feel guilty and release him. Or obviously with this whole, there's one of her on earth, there's one of her in hell. If she was to get caught out and have to commit to hell, or have to start splitting her time between hell and earth, maybe she might take Caliban up on that offer of the marriage proposal, because obviously he proposed marriage. He said that they could rule together. And obviously she'd have more time on earth. And I feel like he also was, feeling Sabrina. He didn't want it just to be a title. He wanted them to have a proper marriage with, all the privileges included. So I'm thinking maybe potentially that could be a thing. What do you guys think is in store for Sabrina? Do you want her to get back with anyone? Do you want her to get the Caliban? Or would you rather just see her as a single independent woman for the next season? Let me know what you think. So obviously, what is next for Sabrina? My predictions, I think the two Sabrinas are not going to work out. I think she's definitely going to get caught out. Obviously, Ambrose warned her about Lilith and how she was very sharp and how she was probably going to get figured out. I think she'll probably get figured out by Lilith. And again, she'll have to make a decision. Does she want to be the queen of hell? Does she want to give that up and be a teenager? Or is she going to split her time? And then also linking in with my Caliban theory, she might resuscitate Caliban and be like, okay, let's do a partnership so I'd be able to split my time more freely between Earth and Hell. And then also, obviously, Fastus, obviously, we see him at the end opening the mysterious, powerful egg and saying, you know, this is the end of days, you know, this is the powerful energy and stuff like that, never seen before. Again, I'm not really sure how Fastus survived, because in the loop, Sabrina got him taken by Basibat, and even though he has like the mark of Cain, obviously Lilith gave him this protection spell, that doesn't mean that Batibat can't like take him. Obviously she can't kill him, but she could take him to her like never-ending dream realm. So we didn't really see how he escaped from that, and how suddenly he has access to this egg. Again, I think maybe that was an overlooked aspect of the script. But anyway, Fastus is now suddenly released from Batibat and, you know, has released this egg. And we don't really know what's going to happen, but it's probably going to be chaos. And then also the Haitian witch, she said that she had a feeling that something dark was coming and that there was a war coming. So again, another war. In terms of the new characters, obviously we've got Ralph. He was an okay character, but I feel like, I don't know if it was just me, but yes, I'm loving this inclusion. I really like the inclusion of Caliban. He's quite dishy. You know what? He's a good looking guy, but on top of that, he has this presence. He has this sex appeal. Like, he's very sexually intimidating. He's a very charming character. There's a lot of chemistry on screen, and I would personally like to see him released from that cave and see a bit more of him. What did we guys think of Caliban? Are we liking him? Do we feel like he should be brought back for season 3 as a main? Let me know. And also Luke, Lucifer's character played by Luke Cook. Again, as I said before, he plays the character really well. Another one of my favourite characters. In the credits, he was put as a guest character, but I feel like he should be back as a main, as a regular cast. I feel like he should be a regular member of the cast. But yeah, what do you guys think of Luke Cook? Like I said in the beginning, I liked the music, I liked the choreography. It kind of wasn't a surprise to me that they went down the musical route. Obviously, it's the same people that make Riverdale. But I feel like there was better choreography and there was better singing. I enjoyed the musical numbers. So yeah, I enjoyed the musical numbers. And also, I feel like the cheerleaders were better. I feel like the Baxter High cheerleaders are better than the Vixen. You thought of the music? Do you feel like it was too much? Did you like it? Did you not? Let me know what you think. And then also another thing that I noticed, as well as Harvey's shirt being off a considerable amount more than it was last season. Like, Ross and Gavin have been in the gym. Like, they've beefed up. Like, the writers were just like, look, we need you on a meal plan because the shirts are coming off this season. I think next season we're gonna see a lot more of Nick and Ross's chest, especially because the Riverdale writers are in it. They're probably testing it out, and yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more chest, you know. Overall, I felt like it was a pretty good season, pretty solid season, great cinematography. The story was decent. I think I did prefer last season though, because I just feel like the stories are getting a little bit repetitive. I think we need something a bit more fresh next season. It's becoming a lot more like there's a dilemma and then Sabrina saves the day. And then there's another dilemma and then next season Sabrina's figuring out that dilemma and then she saves the day. I think we need a little bit more fresh. Maybe someone else could save the day. You know, Ross, she swiped that snake head clean off. Maybe she could save the day this time. But yeah, I think we need something a bit more fresh. So yeah, overall, good, solid production. Bingeability, I would give it a 4 out of 5. Probably going to watch it all in one sitting. Yeah, you'll probably watch it all in one day. You'll probably all watch it all in one day. I think my overall rating, taking everything into account, would be a 3.5 out of 5. So that's pretty much a roundup of everything. Let me know what you thought of this season. Let me know what you thought of this review. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and if you have, don't forget to put your notification bell on so you know when the next review is dropping. There's a lot of stuff dropping in February that I'm really excited about. There's a lot of stuff dropping. There's a lot of stuff on Netflix dropping in February that I'm really excited about. Let me know what you're most excited about premiering on Netflix. Time, guys. Bye.